Hello dear children. Now in this video we will discuss about market mechanism, okay, equilibrium price and the equilibrium quantity that prevails in a competitive market. Okay. So till now whatever we have discussed, that is up to chapter number 5, that was actually a basic form of economics, or you can say elementary economics, okay. But from now on, from this chapter number 6, we have to have a scientific approach towards the economics. Okay, so let us start our discussion with the first topic, that is market. So what is market? So by market, we mean an arrangement or system through which buyers and sellers interact with each other to purchase and sell different types of goods and services. Okay, so market is normally any form of hard bazaar, or you can say Kalimpong bazaar, or if you come to Siliguri, you can find various types of markets. Okay, and now in the modern world, uh, this market is also now, it can be referred to the shopping mall, okay, where you can find varieties of goods and services at one place, okay, and as well as the online marketing. Okay, so that is your market in general. Okay, so market is also referred to as a framework within which the two forces will be interacting with each other. Okay, so just like we discussed that the buyers and sellers, they interact with each other to purchase and sell. Okay, now similarly in this market, okay, the two forces will be interacting with each other. The force of demand will be created by the consumers, okay, or the buyers, and the force of supply will be created by the suppliers or the sellers or shopkeepers. So by framework, okay, so what do we mean by framework? By framework we mean actually a, let's say, a limited space, okay, within which these two forces will be interacting with each other. So you must have noticed whenever there is a football match, okay, within the limit of football ground, the two different teams will be interacting with each other, okay, who can score the maximum, isn't it, and win the match. Similarly, here in this market, the two forces, that is demand and supply, okay, they are always interacting with each other. Okay, so whenever these two forces are equal to each other, that time it is known as equilibrium, or that condition of market is known as equilibrium condition, okay, or break-even point. Okay, however, this break-even point will be used in terms of price. Okay, we will discuss this if there is in the later chapters. Okay, we will discuss obviously. So now, what is equilibrium? Now, disequilibrium is a condition when there is excess supply or excess demand. Okay, so this condition is known as disequilibrium. Okay, there can be excess demand or deficient demand. Okay, so here this is your excess demand and this condition is your deficient demand. Okay, now this is the case of excess supply and this is the case of deficit supply, okay, or shortage. So this condition, okay, above or below the equilibrium condition or equilibrium point is known as disequilibrium. Okay, now whenever we discuss about the equilibrium condition, we always relate it with the price. Okay, so what is equilibrium price? So at the time of market equilibrium, the prevailing price is known as the equilibrium price. So the price at which the quantity demanded is equal to the quantity supplied is known as the equilibrium price. Okay, now equilibrium has two aspects. Okay, the first aspect is your demand side. So let us see what is this. So you already know that consumers, they want to pay as much as less, okay, and get the maximum benefit. Okay, but remember, to understand the concept of equilibrium price, we have to uh, refer to its marginal utility. Okay, the marginal utility of a commodity. Okay, so the maximum price paid by a consumer equates to marginal utility. Okay, and this marginal utility, it says the maximum limit of a commodity. Okay, so this is the condition. You can refer to this graph, which is roughly prepared. Okay, so this CD, it is your demand curve. Okay, let us assume it to be a demand curve. Okay, and this AB, let it be a marginal utility curve. Okay, so whenever they are meeting at this point E, so that point E is actually the condition of equilibrium. Okay, and the existing price or the prevailing price at this point of time is known as the equilibrium price. So in your copy you can draw the same figure, okay, and just highlight the price. Okay, I forgot to highlight the price out here. Okay, so just draw a rectangular box out here. Okay, so that will be your equilibrium price. Okay, from the demand side. Now what is it from the supply side? Now from the supply side, it is the selling price, okay, the minimum selling price, which equals to the marginal cost of production. Okay, so just like here we have the marginal utility that is achieved by the consumers. Okay, similarly here we have the marginal cost that is incurred by the seller, okay, or supplier. So whenever the minimum selling price is equal to the marginal cost of production, that condition is the equilibrium condition from supply side. And always remember that marginal cost is the lowest limit, is the lowest limit of the price. Okay, so here let us suppose that this curve drawn with blue line is your MC curve. Okay, that's the marginal cost curve. Okay, and this red line is your supply curve. Okay, so now whenever they meet at this point E is known as the equilibrium. Okay, and the price prevailing out here becomes the equilibrium price. Okay, so now competitive market. Okay, as the title of this chapter suggests, that uh, equilibrium price and quantity in a competitive market. So what is competitive market? So it will be better to show you with this video. So let us play the video. Let me just show you.
An all-out brawl broke out in UP's Bagpat recently when two chat vendors fighting over the issue of attracting customers to their respective shops turned into a free-for-all phrases straight out of a movie. Someone caught the whole thing on camera and it looks like a deleted scene from Gangs of Wasipur. The video got a range of responses from people on Twitter. There is a lot to digest. After all, this madness broke out as a result of two groups of chat shopkeepers fighting
market. Okay, so here we can see that they are fighting with each other. Why they are fighting? They are fighting just to attract the customers. So this kind of cutthroat competition, it prevails in the market. Okay, so hence the market which we have observed, okay, the market in which we go and buy the products is completely competitive market. Okay, now let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so we saw that in case of equilibrium and disequilibrium, this actually this disequilibrium is quite interesting because it has two aspects, that is excess supply and the excess demand. Okay, so let us discuss about them. Now what is excess demand? Now, whenever the amount by which the quantity demanded exceeds the quantity supplied is known as the excess demand. Okay, so it happened last year, okay, when we saw the first wave of coronavirus in India. We saw that many of the essential commodities were highly demanded, but the supply was very limited. Okay, and even today also, we are actually demanding for the vaccine. Okay, but the vaccine is not much available in India. Okay, so the supply is very much limited. So when the demand is more than the supply, it is the condition of excess demand. Okay, so here you can see out here. Okay, so this is the area. Okay, this is the area in which the demand is more than supply. Okay, so this condition is not so good for the market. Okay, and because what happened at this point of time is that whenever there is excess demand and the supply is limited, there is a chance that the price of a commodity may be very, very high. Okay, the suppliers will charge very, very high price for such type of commodities. Okay, and now let us see just the opposite condition of this, that is the condition of excess supply. Now, this excess supply is a condition when the quantity supplied is more than the quantity demanded. Okay, there is excess supply, but the demand is very, very low as compared to the supply. Okay, so at this point of time, what happens? There will be the abundance of commodities in the market, but the demand will be very less. So at this point of time, the price of the commodity will fall down. Okay, so normally what happens is that in case of excess demand, you can see inflation, and in case of excess supply, you can see deflation. Okay, so this inflation and deflation we will discuss when we reach macroeconomics in great detail. Okay. Now, what are the effects of changes or shifts in demand on equilibrium price? Okay, so there are two types of shifts or changes, that is shifting from the demand side as well as from the supply side. Okay, so let us discuss the effect of shift in demand on equilibrium price as well as equilibrium quantity. So whenever we say there is increase in demand, we are actually talking about the rightward shift of the demand curve. Okay, so you can see here in this picture that the demand curve is shifting towards the right hand side. Okay, so let us suppose that this is your D1, D2 and D3, so it will move towards the right hand side. Okay, and now whenever we talk about the decrease in demand, it is actually referring to the leftward shift of the demand curve. Okay, it's not about the movement, remember. Okay, that movement, it only occurs in terms of contraction and expansion. We are talking about the shift. Okay, so the entire demand curve will shift towards the right hand side in case of increase in demand, and in case of decrease in demand, the entire demand curve will shift towards the left hand side. So what happens when there is increase in demand? So whenever there is increase in demand, both equilibrium price as well as the equilibrium quantity will increase. You can see out here, okay, the quantity is also increasing. You can see, let us suppose that D is the initial demand curve. Okay, and whenever there is increase in the demand curve, you can see that the equilibrium price has also increased because the demand is now shifting. Okay, so with increase in demand, the price also increases. Okay, as well as the quantities to be supplied also increases. Okay, I mean the demand is now shifting. Okay, so the demand is increasing as well as the equilibrium price is also increasing. Okay, in case of increase in demand. Now in case of decrease in demand, what happens is that the entire demand curve will now shift towards the left hand side. Okay, so now you can see this DD is the initial demand curve. Okay, now this will shift towards the left hand side. Okay, now this will bring in the decrease in the quantity demanded as well as the decrease in the equilibrium price that is prevailing in the market. Okay, so this what happens in case of change or shift in demand curve. Okay, so this is the effect of the shifting of demand on equilibrium price as well as the equilibrium quantity. Now, effects of changes in supply on equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. So, understanding this change in demand or shift in demand is very simple. Okay, so increase in demand will that is the rightward side. Okay, it will increase. Okay, increase in demand will increase both equilibrium price as well as the equilibrium quantity. Okay, now decrease in demand will decrease both equilibrium price as well as the equilibrium quantity. But in case of supply, there is some kind of change you can see out here. Okay, so whenever there is increase in supply, we are talking about the rightward shift of the supply curve. Okay, now which will cause the decrease in equilibrium price. Now you can see here in this picture that this SS is the initial supply curve. Okay, and now it is shifting towards the right hand side. Okay, now what will happen at this point of time? Now the quantity that to be supplied will increase now. Okay, the quantity to be supplied, it increases. Okay, the quantity increases and the price decreases. Why the price decreases now? I have already explained you out here that whenever there is excess supply, deflation occurs. Okay, so the prices of different commodities, it starts falling. Okay, so now it will fall. Okay, the prices will now fall. Okay, now whenever there is decrease in the supply of a commodity, we are actually referring to the leftward shift of the supply curve. Okay, and now this will actually increase the equilibrium price. Okay, and the decrease in the quantity. Okay, now the decrease in supply will increase the equilibrium price, and obviously the quantity supplied will be decreased. Okay, so now let us suppose that this SS is the initial supply curve. Okay, now there is the leftward shift, which means the quantity supplied has been now decreased. Okay, now at this point of time, what happens is that supply has been reduced, which means obviously the price will be increased. Okay, so always remember that supply of any commodity is increased, price will be decreased. Okay, and if the supply of any commodity is decreased, then the price will increase. Okay, so now this is how the supply and the demand, they actually control, or they have an impact on the equilibrium price as well as the equilibrium quantity. Okay, so I don't want to make this video very much lengthy. Okay, so we will discuss the rest of the topics in the next video.